The moment you walk into a room, before you say a word, the game begins. Eyes follow you. Smiles sharpen into assessments. People are already trying to read you, your walk, your silence, your micro-expressions. They're doing it instinctively, based on fear or desire. But while most stumble through this social theater blind, Machiavellians don't guess. They see. They decode. And they do it before you even know you've been read. Because the power doesn't lie in how well you present yourself. It lies in how precisely you can see through others. And the greatest trick of all? They won't even know you're doing it. That's the difference between intuition and psychological warfare. This isn't charm. This isn't empathy. This is control, cloaked in understanding. These are 13 Machiavellian tricks to read anyone, and by the time they realize it, you'll already be 2 steps ahead. You think you're safe because you're observant. You think people reveal themselves in time. But in Machiavellian terms, time is a luxury. In relationships, business, or power struggles, waiting is weakness. If you don't know who someone is quickly, they will use that delay. Make them wait. Time reveals entitlement. Delay your reply. Cancel plans last minute. Be vague. The truly entitled will seethe, guilt trip, or manipulate. The stable will adapt. Machiavelli didn't trust those who couldn't handle delayed gratification, because patience isn't just virtue. It's control. And the impatient are always the first to betray when they're denied control. 9. Discover who they copy. Everyone imitates someone. Watch closely. Do they mimic the successful? They crave status. The charming? They want to be liked. The moral? They want to feel superior. People don't model randomly. They model what they secretly worship. And once you know who they emulate, you understand what they'll sacrifice to become them. 10. Trigger envy. Then watch the face. Mention a recent success. A compliment someone gave you. A win they didn't expect. Then freeze the moment. Watch their smile. Is it delayed? Is it too tight? Do they instantly change the subject or diminish your story? That's envy. And envy doesn't scream. It flickers. Machiavelli saw it as the most dangerous emotion because it always leads to sabotage, but never announces its arrival. 11. Ask what they hate. Forget what people claim to love. Ask what they despise. What type of people do you hate? Their answers won't be about others. They'll be about themselves. People project their suppressed traits. The one who hates arrogance is often quietly arrogant. The one who despises dishonesty may lie best. Judgment is a mirror. And if you want to find their fear, ask what they can't tolerate in others. 12. Watch the eyes break contact. Power is maintained in the eyes. But truth escapes from them. Bring up sensitive topics, money, control, failure, shame. Watch where their gaze goes. Eyes dart when something hits too deep. They won't always flinch, but they will break. And what makes the eyes flee tells you what the heart fears most. Machiavelli didn't trust the smile. He trusted the twitch. 13. Then measure their reaction. Subtly copy their body language, tone, or posture. Not to bond, but to provoke. If you match their calm, do they try to dominate? If you mirror their intensity, do they retreat? If you reflect their insecurity, do they grow arrogant? The more someone shifts when they see their own energy reflected, the more they were performing. True character doesn't flinch at the mirror. False personas do. Strategic shift, from reading to controlling. Now you can read people. But that's only the first layer. The true Machiavellian doesn't just read, they use what they see. And not through confrontation. Through direction. You don't overpower a person. You let them walk into your plan believing it was their idea. Use their desires to move them. People are simple when you know what they want. Status. Approval. Safety. You don't resist their desire. You reflect it. The ambitious? Praise their drive. The insecure? Highlight their strengths. The dominant? Recognize their control. And once they feel understood, you redirect. You link their desire to your outcome. Want influence? Follow me. Want approval? Support this. Want power? Back this play. They'll follow, because they think it was always their direction. Not yours. Strategic vulnerability opens doors. Reveal a small flaw. Something believable. Harmless. I've always second-guessed my gut. I'm not great with confrontation. This shifts the power. Now they feel above you. Helpful. Trusted. Their ego expands, and in that comfort they speak more freely. They reveal more. Because they think they're the one in control. And people are always honest when they feel superior. Offer half the truth to get the whole map. Say something that feels like a confession. I trusted the wrong person once. I stopped being nice when I saw how people take advantage. You're not confessing. You're baiting. They'll match you, only they'll give you more. Because you've set the tone. You pretended to be raw. They try to match your depth. You get the full vulnerability. And you never gave up anything real. Let them define themselves, then use it. People tell you who they want to be. I don't play games. I value loyalty. I never let emotions control me. Now you know what they're defending. When you need them to act a certain way, just frame it inside their identity. You value efficiency, I know you'll act fast. You're loyal, I know I can trust you here. You don't force. You affirm. And they obey their own script. Install reputations they'll fight to maintain. Praise them in advance. You're known for staying neutral. You always keep your word. You don't stoop to petty drama. You've just written their role. If they act outside of it, they risk contradiction. And most will protect perception over principle. You've boxed them in. With flattery they now feel obligated to earn. Leak just enough to guide perception. Let them overhear something. Something that hints at your strength. Your standards. Your hidden sharpness. A story. A remark. A joke. It doesn't need to be bold. Just believable. They'll internalize it. They'll adjust their behavior. And they'll think they discovered it on their own. When people think they figured you out, they stop questioning. And when they stop questioning, you start winning. Let them win small so you win big. Let them believe they're leading. That their idea is winning. That they're essential. Give them early victories that feed their pride. Then guide the result toward your goal. People defend what they think they built. So feed their ego just enough to buy their loyalty. They'll protect your plan because they think it's theirs. Final evolution. Influence without effort. You've moved past reading. Past strategy. Now it's instinct. You walk into a room and you don't assess, you absorb. Who's loud? Insecure. Who watches without speaking? Dangerous. Who flatters too easily? Manipulative. Who avoids eye contact when power is discussed? Submissive. The game isn't something you play anymore. It plays through you. But here lies the danger. When you see through everyone, you risk losing your empathy. When control becomes a reflex, detachment follows. And when you start using insight for sport, you begin to lose the reason you sought power in the first place. That's the final Machiavellian lesson. Know when to disappear. Know when to stop pulling strings. And walk away not because you lost the game, but because you mastered it too well. Because the ultimate power is being the only one who knows what really happened. Advanced Machiavellian intelligence. When reading becomes reflex. At the highest level of Machiavellian intelligence, you no longer read people. You absorb them. You don't ask, what are they thinking? You simply know. You don't calculate power shifts. You feel them in the silence. A glance exchanged across a table. A subtle shift in posture. The way someone laughs too quickly or pauses too long. These aren't just habits. They are confessions. And once you can decode them in real time, you've transcended the ordinary game of social manipulation. You've become invisible because you no longer react. You steer. That's when influence becomes untraceable. Because people follow your lead without knowing why. They feel your presence before you speak. They sense your advantage without being able to name it. And they obey not from fear, but from the illusion of their own freedom. The power of controlled ambiguity. The greatest weapon in your arsenal isn't aggression, it's ambiguity. When people can't read you, they fill in the gaps. And in those gaps, they project what they fear or admire. That's when you become bigger than life. More competent than you are. More dangerous than you've shown. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to explain. The absence of clarity becomes power. Leave things unsaid. Let your silences echo. Let them wonder what you're really thinking, because once they start guessing, they reveal their own fears. In their attempts to understand you, they expose themselves. And that's the game. Never let them read you, while you read them like a manual. Machiavelli understood that the more defined you are, the more easily you can be controlled. The vague cannot be predicted. The silent cannot be betrayed. When you're unreadable, you become untouchable. When you don't flinch, they fold. The strongest move is no move at all. When someone expects a reaction and you give them nothing, you rob them of power. They insult you, and you stare blankly. They praise you, and you nod without emotion. They threaten you, and you tilt your head with curiosity. You don't defend. You don't explain. Because to react is to reveal. But to remain still is to dominate. People panic when they can't provoke you. Their weapons bounce off the wall of your restraint. And in that panic, they begin to overextend, overexpose, and overreact. You let them self-destruct. That's not manipulation. That's psychological aikido, using their momentum against them. And all you did was not flinch. The illusion of equality, how to hide power. If people believe you're just like them, they'll never see the trap. They'll open up, share secrets, seek your approval. They'll confess, scheme, and strategize, all while thinking they're in control. That's why the Machiavellian doesn't display superiority. They disguise it. Make yourself seem harmless, unimpressive, even naive. Compliment others. Let them win small debates. Let them think you're slower, less informed. Meanwhile, you're calculating everything. The moment you let them underestimate you, you've already won. Because arrogance is predictable. And predictable people are easy to dismantle. Machiavelli's brilliance wasn't in dominance, it was in concealment. He didn't announce his strength. He buried it beneath layers of flattery, laughter, and feigned ignorance. So when the strike came, no one saw it coming. Curiosity as a weapon. The average person talks to be heard. The Machiavellian listens to be fed. Curiosity, when used strategically, disarms even the most guarded opponent. Ask questions not to understand, but to expose. What scares you about this decision? How do you usually handle being underestimated? What would make you walk away from everything? These are not casual inquiries. They are knives disguised as conversation. Because while someone believes they're talking freely, they're really unraveling. The right question pierces deeper than any confrontation. Because it bypasses logic and triggers instinct. Curiosity works best when paired with false vulnerability. Ask something deep after offering something personal, even if it's a lie. It lowers their defenses. They think it's a dialogue. They don't realize it's a dissection. Never expose the diagnosis. You will be tempted to label someone out loud. Narcissist. Coward. Manipulator. Don't. That's the moment you lose control. Because the second someone knows they've been figured out, they either retreat or attack. And either reaction makes your influence harder to maintain. So label them, but only in your mind. Analyze their triggers, their patterns, their language. Use their fears as tools, but never reveal the diagnosis. Because once someone knows what you see, they'll change the mask. And you'll be starting from zero. True power lies in invisibility. Once you show your hand, the game ends. But if you keep the analysis hidden, you can play them for as long as you need, and walk away without ever being suspected. Pull strings without touching them. There's a level of control so subtle, it feels like suggestion. You plant an idea days before you need it. You make a comment they overhear. You let them believe a decision was theirs. And when they finally act, they think it was spontaneous, natural, their own free will. But you know the truth. You arranged the pieces, tilted the mood, set the context. Their reaction was calculated by you. Not with force, but with psychological gravity. You didn't push. You leaned reality in one direction until they stumbled into the outcome you designed. This is the apex of Machiavellian reading, not watching people like a book, but writing the next chapter for them without ever holding a pen. When you must speak, speak like a weapon. Silence is your home. But sometimes you must speak. When that moment comes, every word must be chosen. No rambling. No defense. No justification. You speak not to explain, but to shape reality. Use framing. Instead of, I think this is a problem, say, here's the consequence if this continues. Instead of, I disagree, say, there's a better move no one's seen yet. Speak in terms of cost, consequence, power, and perception. Most people talk emotionally. The Machiavellian speaks like a strategist. And when you praise, do it with precision. What you did there showed control under pressure. That's not flattery. That's installing a narrative. A story they now feel responsible to live up to. That's how words become leashes, soft, invisible, unbreakable. The art of vanishing power. There's one more stage beyond all tactics. The moment where you hold all the leverage, all the insight, all the control, and you walk away. Not out of fear, but because you've already won. The most powerful players are not the ones who linger. They're the ones who disappear at their peak. They leave behind confusion, curiosity, and impact. People remember them, but don't know why. They shaped the outcome but didn't sign the blueprint. They influenced every decision, but never claimed credit. That's not retreat. That's permanent power. Because when you remove yourself while still being felt, you've become more than influence. You've become legacy. And that, Machiavelli would say, is the final form of psychological dominance. The power to reshape a person's path without being part of it. Read yourself. After all these tools, after every tactic, every strategy, there's a darker mirror waiting. You've read others. You've influenced them. You've pulled strings, shaped realities, and seen the masks drop. But what about your own? Are you using this power to protect yourself? Or to dominate for pleasure? Are you reading people because you care, or because you've stopped believing anyone is real? Are you still playing the game, or have you become the game itself? Machiavelli's mind was a fortress. But even he warned of the cost. To see through everything is to risk feeling nothing. The more you understand people, the more detached you can become. So here is the final discipline. Don't lose the humanity you've learned to control. Use your perception like a blade, but don't become cold steel. Influence with precision, but don't forget that even power is temporary. Win the games, but know which ones aren't worth playing. And when you walk into a room, silent, composed, unreadable, they won't know what you're doing. But you will. You'll be watching, calculating, reading, and winning before the game even begins.